you just fell in love with her, didn't you?
Yeah, I just fell in love with her.
Given how romance is a fairly big part of the Disney brand, with all the fairy tale kisses and all, it's not all that surprising whenever this aspect pops up in one of its Disney Channel cartoons. Today we're going to be looking at these shows and their couples as we figure out which ones stand above the rest. I'm Keefy with Wicked Binge, and this is Disney Channel animated romances, healthy to healthiest. Naturally, we're going to be starting off with romances that would normally fall in the gray tier before working our way up to the healthiest and most well-balanced romantic relationships. Though not a main focus by any means, we felt that no other couple fit the least healthy of the kinda healthy rank more than Tambry and Robbie from Gravity Falls. Obviously, the couple that was literally forced together through a magic love potion isn't gonna feel like a good relationship right off the bat, given that there was no initial choice in it. We also saw that Tambry and Robbie didn't exactly get along well when they were forced by Mabel to go on a blind date, though this could mostly be due to how antisocial both of them tend to be. This prompts Mabel to use one of the love god's potions on them, causing them to actually start romantically liking each other. But in spite of how problematic their initial getting together was, the official Journal 3 book clarifies that the love potion is only meant to give people a nudge and that it only lasts for a few hours. We never see the show focus on them as a couple again, nor are we given any real indication that it is in fact true love, given that Mabel refuses to use the anti-love potion on them. It's truly hard to say just how problematic this ship is and whether the potential within it is legit or something brought about by the potion. There are just too many questions here, which unfortunately tends to overshadow any cute moments, or in Robbie's case, actual happiness.
I'm happy?
That comes with them getting together. From a minor character pairing to one that pretty much took over the entire show, next up is Star and Marko. Whoa boy, this one sure was a will they won't they roller coaster, huh? In some ways, Star and Marko could have been an ideal couple following the footsteps of other famous Disney Channel ships. After all, the friends to lovers dynamic is a classic for a reason, and Star and Marko certainly had chemistry with each other. Unfortunately, regardless of the two characters' actual feelings, the show just refused to get them together. Whether it was Marko dating Jackie Lynn or Star getting back together with Tom, it seemed like these two were just always missing each other. There were other reasons too, like the two of them just refusing to be honest, or outside forces like the war in Muni, or the whole thing with Eclipsa and Meteora getting in the way. It gave off the sense that neither of them was really mature enough to be in a relationship, especially when you look at how poorly each of them treated their exes, Jackie Lynn and Tom, while they were still dating them. Then there was the whole blood moon ball thing, which, much like a love potion, made it hard to know whether or not what these characters were feeling was real, or if they were just supernaturally tied to one another. It's also a bit concerning that in the final episode, these two were literally willing to die together in the realm of magic if it meant staying together. Overall, these two were just kind of a mess, almost feeling codependent on each other in some instances. As friends, they had a lot of great rapport and supported each other through thick and thin. Once things started getting romantic, however, that's when the problems truly started to arise. If anything, crushes and romances just kind of brought out the worst in these two. Still, sometimes the best way for a couple to bond and grow closer is through their adventures, as seen with Scrooge and Goldie in DuckTales 2017. These two are a good example of on again, off again. In a way, they sort of have a Batman and Catwoman dynamic, as while they are both adventurers in search of treasure, Goldie always tended to be more selfish and underhanded in order to assure that she always got what she wanted. While this made Scrooge fairly bitter towards her whenever she'd leave him behind, this didn't stop the two of them from continuing to be flirtatious with each other. It should be noted that Scrooge can be just as tricky as Goldie, so it's not as though Scrooge is constantly the victim in their relationship. Additionally, Goldie's shown having a soft side for Scrooge, such as when she leaves him a clue to let him know what her next adventure will be. Things in the relationship then take a turn for the better in the Forbidden Fountain of the Foreverglades, when the two of them regain their youth. Goldie later reveals that she'd wanted to use her and Scrooge's regained youth to restart their relationship, wanting to fix the mistakes she made with him in the past. We then get a really nice moment where she sacrifices her own youth to save Scrooge from Ponce de Leon, and the two share a goodbye kiss. While it may not be the perfect fairy tale ending, it's an ending that not only gives some closure, but also makes it very clear that for all the trickery and rivalry these two might have had at times, they still cared about each other deeply. From lifelong romances to middle school crushes. Next up we have Haley and Scott from one of the newer shows on our list, Haley's on It. From the start of the series, we're told that in addition to being close childhood friends, Haley actually has a secret crush on Scott that she's terrified to reveal. Unfortunately for her, she's told by a time traveler that she has to do everything on her massive list, including kissing Scott. Now, something like this would make any romantic relationship seem forced. And yeah, there certainly are scenes where it does seem that way, but for what it's worth, Haley decides early on that while the kiss itself might be mandatory in order for her to eventually save the world, she wants the kiss gets itself to mean something, not just seeing it as something to check off or wanting to get it done in the easiest way possible. This shows that she does care about Scott's feelings, even if Haley herself tends to be just a bit self-centered at times. Scott, in turn, is incredibly supportive of Haley, to the point of even putting her above his brief relationship with Christine. He's certainly not the brightest bulb around, but he means well and always tries to make up for his mistakes. The same could be said for Haley, and for as awkward or as messy as things can sometimes be with her, it can't be denied that both she and Scott do care about each other. Thankfully, things haven't quite reached Starco levels of messy and complicated with these two, so that's also a plus. Secrets can be tricky for any relationship to maneuver around, but not necessarily impossible. Jake Long and Rose are a perfect example of this. Both characters had some pretty big secret identities, being the American Dragon and the Hunts Girl, respectively. Out on the battlefield, they were rivals, but in high school, they quickly became close, developing crushes on one another and bonding through things like school dances and being in a play together. While Rose always had Jake's whole heart, he thankfully was never obsessed with her. What's more, while he did briefly distance himself from her when he figured out her identity, Jake eventually trusted that Rose was a good person, wanting to try and help her escape the Hunts clan. Jake turned out to be correct in these assumptions, as not only did Rose spare his life when she learned about his identity, but she also warned him about the Huntsman's plans, telling him to only save himself. Of course, Jake refused, and the two of them were able to work together to trick the Huntsman into thinking that Rose had slain Jake. From there, their relationship continued to bloom, and we got a first-hand look at how deeply these two cared about each other, going on dream dates and being willing to fight and sacrifice in order to keep the other safe. This sense of protectiveness eventually led to Rose using the wishing skulls to rid the world of the Hunts clan once and for all, with Jake afterwards using his own wish to make it so Rose had never been a part of the Hunts clan in the first place, completely changing their history. But in spite of this, the two eventually found each other again in Hong Kong and resumed their relationship. Even with how intense and dramatic things got between them, we'd say that Jake and Rose is a good showing of how sometimes love really can conquer all. But even couples that briefly break up can still find that spark, as shown with Ida and Rain from the Owl House. With both of them sort of being considered outcasts in their respective schools, it was pretty easy for Ida and Rain to form a bond with each other when they met as kids. They would continue admiring each other as adults, but after Ida refused to let Rain help her with her owl beast curse, not wanting to open up to them or risk hurting them, Rain broke things off with her. A few decades later, the two of them would meet back up, and we would see their relationship bloom once again. Much like with Jake and Rose, this is a relationship where we get many examples of the two characters fighting for each other and even sacrificing for one another. From Rain pretending to be on Belos' side as a spy and refusing to let Ida help them, to Ida disguising herself as Rain and eventually losing her hand in an attempt to spare Rain from Belos' draining spell. For as hard as it can be for the two of them to open up to each other, they do end up trusting each other quite a bit when push comes to shove, with the admiration they had for each other as kids never really fading away. Considering that not even their breakup led to any real bad blood between them, you get the sense that even if they aren't always as open as they should be with each other, they still always care about one another. Moving back over to the younger perspective on things like romance, let's briefly talk about Molly and Ollie. Everyone knows the old phrase, opposites attract, but what about when two people are actually extremely similar to each other? This is the case with Molly and Ollie, as while the two of them have slightly differing personalities, they both care about making the world a better place.
Oh, you absolute dreamboat!
Unfortunately, Ollie believed the best way to do this was to hunt and destroy ghosts, much to Molly's horror. Because of this, while the two were obviously attracted to one another and enjoyed each other's company, there was always a sense of danger in Ollie potentially finding out about Molly's ghostly BFF. Still, for as much as Molly tried to protect Scratch, she still believed that Ollie could learn to not hate ghosts. When things eventually came to a head in the show's big Halloween special, it was Ollie who chose to trust in both Molly and Scratch, caring more about their feelings than his own anti-ghost beliefs and being willing to make a change for the sake of his relationship with Molly. Though the second season isn't over yet, we've seen Molly and Ollie continue to bond and admire each other now that Ollie's no longer a ghost hunter, showing excellent teamwork and supporting one another in their endeavors in episodes like The Haunting of Brighton Video and Carbon Zero Heroes. While they haven't become an official couple yet, their previous crushes on each other and the deeper bond they currently have post-Halloween easily hint at Molly and Ollie eventually becoming a couple. It's gonna happen. First relationships can certainly be tricky, even if they're also really cute. Amphibia's Sprig and Ivy can certainly attest to that. Originally, Sprig and Ivy were just friends and sparring partners, despite Anne and Hop Pop insisting otherwise, but while they were resistant to being forced together and even stated that they had no romantic feelings for one another, it only took a bit more bonding for these feelings to come naturally. And admittedly, it sort of ruins the message of the episode, but for what it's worth, these two do seem happy. Throughout the rest of the series, we see Sprig and Ivy's feelings for each other continue to grow whenever they hang out or do something for each other, like Sprig getting Ivy a special shell for her birthday. They're pretty patient and easygoing with one another, never really bickering and always having each other's best interests at heart. Given that they are just kids, there are still moments where they can be a bit shy with each other, or, as seen in season 3, can be very clingy towards one another. Thankfully, this doesn't last long, and they are still able to work together with others just as well as they're able to work with each other. They even end up traveling together when they get older, further emphasizing their bond. Much like Molly and Ollie, these two have pretty similar vibes, so it seems only natural that they'd get along so well.
After all, we're perfectly in sync.
And while we haven't seen them have to deal with any huge bumps in a row, we feel like Sprig and Ivy have what it takes to solve any big problems they or their relationship may come across together. Just outside of our top 5, we have easily one of the most popular Disney Channel ships, Luz and Amity. Simply put, these two are really adorable together. Having a sort of rivals to friends to lovers dynamic, it really didn't take long for Luz and Amity to form that bond with each other. For Amity especially, Luz became a light in her life, giving her the courage to be herself, and becoming someone that Amity cared about so much that she was willing to finally stand up to her mother in order to protect Luz from her wrath. Luz, meanwhile, ended up being a bit shy about her own feelings, having a few bad experiences when it came to confessing her feelings, and believing that Amity was too cool for her. Thankfully, with a bit of interference from Hootie, the two of them were able to eventually confess and enter a relationship together. But for as adorable and sweet as these two can be, many felt that one major flaw that ended up forming with this relationship was just how often Luz ended up lying to her girlfriend throughout the latter half of season 2 and most of season 3. Given how Luz was used to being a bit of a loner, you can't necessarily blame her for wanting to try and handle things herself instead of potentially bothering Amity with them. Despite Amity insisting that she wanted to help, Luz secretly planning to stay in the human realm certainly didn't help matters. Some fans also felt that Amity became a bit too focused on Luz's needs, neglecting her own or ignoring her other friends in the group, but while these are valid relationship flaws, we feel that they aren't impossible to fix. Both girls have their own issues and traumas that they'll have to continue dealing with, but given how much love they have for each other, we still see their relationship as being a positive means of support for them rather than any sort of hindrance. But while Lumity may have found its own fame, you can't really discuss iconic Disney Channel ships without bringing up Phineas and Isabella. While it may have been a pain for Finnabella shippers to wait until the episode Act Your Age to see these two finally get together, the lead up to it had been pretty sweet to watch. For as oblivious as Phineas could be, and for as much as Isabella wanted to hide her feelings, these things never stopped these two from having a strong friendship. While she might have wanted Phineas to eventually return her feelings, making them like her was never Isabella's only goal.
All I want for my birthday is some alone time with...
She just wanted to help Phineas with his amazing projects and never hesitated to lift him back up whenever he was feeling down. On the other side of things, Phineas obviously cared a lot about Isabella, with several of his projects of the day being centered around wanting to do something for her or to help her. Even if he may not have felt those romantic sparks at first, she was still always important to him. Ironically, what docks some points away from this couple is the episode Act Your Age, in that we see how these two drifted apart, with both of them essentially waiting until the very last minute to confess their feelings. It makes what was originally a strong and heartfelt relationship feel a lot more shallow, and if we're being honest, it's an episode that's better off being ignored in favor of all the other great Finnabella moments from the series proper. Still, if you want an accurate and realistic example of a romantic relationship between two kids, look no further than Cricket and Gabriella from Big City Greens. In a way, these two are incredibly similar to Sprig and Ivy, but are somehow even more casual and chill about their relationship, while still being very cute, of course. While he may have been against romance at first, Cricket fell for Gabriella almost immediately, originally just seeing her as a pretty girl before coming to admire her for her pranking skills. Gabriella, meanwhile, didn't fall quite as hard. She just saw Cricket and felt like dancing with him. In spite of how awkward and weird Cricket was while trying to deal with this sudden crush on her, Gabriella never really looked down on Cricket for it. She was patient with him, and once he confessed his feelings, she immediately agreed to be his girlfriend. Even if neither one of them are interested in things like kissing or being all lovey-dovey with each other just yet, they have a lot in common, and we see them happily work together to prank people at a fancy restaurant when Bill forces them to go on a real first date. Even when Cricket moves back to the country, their long-distance relationship remains strong through video chatting with each other. For these two, the most important thing for them is to keep it casual and fun, so while it may not be the most serious relationship on this list, the foundation is strong enough that it could easily develop into something more traditional and romantic once these two get a bit older. For our bronze medal of healthiness, we felt that Jeff from The Ghost and Molly McGee more than earned this spot. After all, according to the episode, The Afterlife of the Party, these two have been together for 100 years. Still, you'd be forgiven for thinking that these two are still in the honeymoon phase, given how in love they always seem whenever they're around each other. From Jeff admiring Jeff's scaring talents and being protective of him, to Jeff frequently calling Jeff things like awesome and amazing, to all the physical affection they show each other and all the dancing they do together. You can completely understand why these two have lasted so long and why they'd want to spend the rest of their after lives together, as their dynamic really is that wholesome. It's just incredibly sweet to see. Moving on to our silver medal of healthiness, we have Candace and Jeremy. And admittedly, it'd be easy to see this relationship as one-sided given all the focus the show puts on Candace's perspective and her feelings, but when you really lay everything out, you'll see that things are actually pretty even in terms of their shared affections for one another. Candace may be manic and often has a one-track mind, but she'll still try to give Jeremy plenty of focus and attention, always wanting to show how much she cares about him. Jeremy, meanwhile, is patient and loves Candace for who she is, admiring her determination and not taking it personally when she loses focus.
I've gotta bust my brother!
That that smugger.
These two kids fell for each other hard, and throughout the series they just grew closer and closer, going on various dates and always being there for each other. Even their alternate dimension selves end up falling for each other, implying that regardless of the situation or the overall craziness of Danville, these two are just meant to be. Finally, our gold medal of healthiness is going to none other than Kim and Ron. Yeah, Lumity and Finabella are iconic and well loved in their own right, considering that fans literally fought to get Kim Possible renewed for a 4th season just so they could see Kim and Ron in a proper relationship. We'd say that these two are kind of in a shipping league of their own. They are best friends and partners in crime fighting, having a mutual respect and admiration for each other while also being able to work together incredibly well. You never get the sense that there's any sort of power dynamic between them, even if Kim is the more talented and skilled one, as they both need and want each other by their side. They always try to be there for one another, even during the rare times when they're arguing or feeling conflicted, as we never really see them hold grudges. They have each other's backs and cheer each other on, with this all reaching its natural conclusion in the So the Drama TV movie, when Ron not only pushes Kim to still fight even after being heartbroken, but also confesses his feelings to her. When they did finally become a couple, their dynamic and relationship with each other got even better, with the two of them continuing to support each other through their senior year. Even with their ups and downs, Kim and Ron always knew how to communicate and work with each other, with the care they had for one another overshadowing any problem they might have had. For all these reasons, these two easily earn our top spot, being the golden example of what any animated Disney Channel romantic relationship should be.